Today's video is going to be about grinds, specifically grinds on rails and taking those grinds farther. So, I started skating in the 90s, and in the 90s it was kind of a different approach to skating. You just kind of threw stuff out there and figured it out. Sometimes you'd have the type of friend who might help you learn a trick, but a lot of people who could do a trick, if you asked them, wouldn't even want to help you, or they'd give you some weird answer like just go figure it out, or just do this and then figure it out. Very unhelpful discourse around skating. That's just where it was back then. So I kind of learned how to grind rails by just throwing it on there and not really having any idea what I was doing. The opposite way to how I learned flip tricks, and this is why earlier in my career, I skated mostly stairs, because the stair skating came to me. There were people who were willing to show me how they did a flip trick. I remember like P-Rod showed me how to do a proper tray flip that would work down a gap or down a set of stairs after I'd learned like the old school Jason Lee way. And there were all sorts of people like that. It wasn't until later on, like I used to have a key to the Shorties warehouse when I was getting boards from Shorties, and I went and skated with Mike Taylor in there at one point. He was learning how to kickflip crook grind the hubba for his new video part in Skate More, and then he kickflip crooked hubba in that video. Well, I was there with him multiple nights, and I learned how to kickflip crook that day with his help, and learned how to kind of point it into the crooked grind. As soon as you're doing the kickflip, it worked. I still do them this way today. Now, grinds were something completely different because there was really no one to assist me with learning grinds. The people that did know how to grind, and I'm talking about like grinding flat bars, grinding longer rails, they just either weren't willing to explain it or just weren't good enough at explaining it. So, you know, my first ever ad in a magazine was Transworld in 2001. I was either 15 or 16 when I shot the photo, and it was me 50-50ing red kinked rail at UC Irvine. And the truth is, I didn't even really know how to do that 50-50. I was just told that if I did the trick, I could get the ad. And so I just kind of banged it out, ate it, fell into the bushes a few times, and then somehow just made it through that 50-50. Also, anybody who's familiar with Los Angeles, anybody who skated out here back in the day, Los Angeles City College on Vermont Boulevard used to have a long flat bar out in front of it. Round bar, I 50-50'd that, I sacked it. Trying it, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew I had to ollie up onto it and just try to hold it, and that's what I did. I had to sack it. I fell a few times. Eventually I held it, made it through. So because of this, long grinds were not really a big thing for me throughout much of my career. And then after turning pro, so I turned pro for WarCo skateboards 2014, and it wasn't until after then that I started really messing around with longer grinds. There's a long feeble grind in New York in my WarCo Sun Machine part, and the only reason I was able to do this feeble grind was because I was skating with people like Jordan Maxim and Paul Flores, who kind of showed me the hack to grind long. And so that's what I'm gonna go over today. Thank you to the patrons, really appreciate you guys. If any of you is interested in one-on-one video lessons with me, you're interested in me critiquing videos that you send me, you're interested in the monthly Q&As, feel free to join the Patreon group. It's linked below. So Paul Flores was the first person to kind of help me with my grinds. I could not hold grinds long to save my life. And I had a lack of confidence in doing it because, like, you know, every once in a while I get away with it, but I really didn't know what I was doing. So I'd do some long slides and things like that, but it would never be a grind. And Paul Flores is the first person who taught me the cross lock and the heel lock for 50-50s. So He taught me that for his backside 50-50s, he'd cross lock. Cross lock is, let me grab this skateboard. So for me being goofy footed, this would be the toe side edge, this would be the heel side edge. So I will, when I cross lock to 50-50 or rail, I will have this wheel, so the wheel closest to the tail, up against the rail. And on the front truck, I will have this wheel up against the rail. So the rail is going across my truck, and it allows me to get a good balance when I'm sitting on the rail. He also taught me how to heel lock for the front side 50-50. And the heel lock just means this is the heel side edge of my board, so my heels would be here. I would have this wheel up against the rail, this wheel up against the rail. So the rail's just going across, it's just going right there through the truck. And he also taught me that if I really wanted to learn to grind far, that I was gonna have to try to just experiment with where to put my weight over those different locks to hold it. So this started me out. That day, we were at a high school in the San Gabriel Valley. There was a long flat bar that people would skate, and I was able to 50-50 that thing that day, front side. So that helped me a little bit, but then, you know, I never really developed on it from there, to be honest. And it wasn't until about 2015 when I was skating with Jordan Maxim, another one of my teammates, and we were at Lincoln Park Skate Park, and we were warming up, and they would all warm up on the flat bar. I might do a few tricks on the flat bar, like some long board slides or something like that, blunt slides, front blunt slides. But when it came to 50-50s and feeble grinds, you know, I could do like a front feeble, maybe half of the way, a feeble grind like half of the way, but holding it consistently and being able to pop out to either side and or take it to the end or do a shove it out or a backside 180 out, I was not capable of doing this. And Jordan Maxim was the one who taught me what ended up making this much easier for me, which was that you have to start slow. The trick is you have to get your confidence boosted. And so the way that Jordan Maxim taught me to boost my confidence for rails was to ride up to the rail extremely slow. Hop onto the rail with the intention of not really grinding. If you grind a little bit, it's okay. But you really want to just jump on, sit on top of the rail and hold it and balance, and then jump off when you're ready to jump off. And this is the best way to learn how to hold your grinds. I'll have video examples going through here, and I'll just give you a little example of what I do. So when I took the video for this, I was working on frontside 50-50s, backside 50-50s, and feebles. So, you know, I did my little warm-up, did some board slides at regular speed, like 3/4 of the rail, board slide, front board, and then it's time to do the 50-50s, right? So I start with the backside 50-50. The backside 50-50 is so much less scary for me because it's very similar to a feeble. And since I'm utilizing the cross lock, the board is situated very similarly to how you would feeble grind. And feeble grinds are much easier to hold than 50-50s, at least they always were for me, because of the way that you get in and the way that you have the lock. So what I'm doing is I'm riding up to the rail extremely slow. I'm hopping on, and I'm trying to stand on top of the rail for at least 2 seconds at a time. And so what I did is I worked through this. I finally got a couple where I sat on top of the rail. I was able to catch my balance. Like, I know it's very popular for guys to use this technique. They roll up slow to a rail these days. They jump on and they just grind a really long rail. And sometimes you'll see them shift to fix their weight. Well, this is how you practice that. And if you're interested in doing that, that's what you have to do. So when I go through this, I'll start off going extremely slow, jumping on, getting comfortable. The first tries are always really scary, like really, really scary, because you feel like you're just gonna ollie onto this rail and go heels over and just eat it. But typically at this speed, you're able to catch it. So I'll give you a really important tip that helped me as well was, I'm someone that has a lot of pop. And so a part of my struggle with holding grinds was that I was ollieing so high over whatever I was trying to land on that I would land in it with so much force. And I can't remember exactly who it was that brought this to my attention and told me try to only ollie as high as you need to get onto this. And it actually took me some time. I wasn't able to accomplish this at first. It took a lot of practice. But once I was able to start to control how much I popped onto the rail or the flat bar, it gave me so much assistance with being able to hold those grinds. So now I roll it very slow, I'll ollie on, I'll try to sit on top of the rail, and then from there I will slowly speed up. So I'll go fast enough to grind half of the rail, then fast enough to grind 3/4 of the rail, you know? And the wonderful thing about the cross lock, and I know some people use the cross lock for frontside 50s as well. This has never worked for me. It just always feels weird, and I'm kind of squirrely with the frontside 50/50s anyway. So I prefer the heel lock for frontside 50/50s. Also for like kick flipping out, shoving out, things like that, backside 180ing out. It just feels easier when I'm in that heel lock. So for frontside, I always go heel lock. It just works. And once you get comfortable, this is an exercise that you can do whenever you go and skate, when you go skate a flat bar. What I like to do this with backside 50/50s. I like to do this with feeble grinds. I like to do this with crooked grinds. I don't always do it with the frontside 50/50s because they don't feel so great to me still. And at my age, like with what I've already done in skating, if something doesn't feel good to me, I don't really stress myself out on doing it. I don't really care. Like, I have frontside 50/50 rails over the course of my career. I think I've pretty much got what I want out of that. But I do want to have a long backside 50 or feeble grind in my next video part. Not the collage video, because I'm already done filming for that, but I am filming for another project for Acid Wheels. So look for a long backside 50 or feeble grind in that. Maybe a Smith grind, who knows? Because I have done long Smith grinds too. The trick to that is kind of ollieing over and then catching it and shifting into the mount that you have for the feeble grind. It takes some getting used to, but it works if you're able to accomplish this. You just have to kind of play with it. And what I like to do after I'm done on the flat bar is I like to go to a round rail. Like when I was skating yesterday, it was at Lincoln Park, and I just went to the round rail, did a front side and a backside 50/50 on that. You know, usually I would have done more, but I had some students who were showing up for me to teach lessons to, and I didn't want to take too much time. But this has increased my comfort level. I can't even explain how well this has made me more confident for grinds on rails, and it carries over to even other tricks that you do on rails. And the funny thing is that even before I could hold these, I was doing kickflip frontside 50/50 grinds on handrails. I was doing kickflip front Smiths, like nollie heel no slides. But those tricks don't require you to sit on top of the rail for so long, so I was able to make it work. Once I did learn these, that's when I was able to start like doing heel flip crooked grinds on rails, like sitting in crooked grinds and nollie heeling out of handrails. This all comes from using this method. So what you want to start doing is you want to go really slow, hop on that rail, sit on top of it and try to hold your balance. If you're afraid to take it to a rail first, take it to a parking block and practice ollieing up on top of the parking block and sitting that way. Then take it to a flat bar. Preferably start with something low or low enough that it's comfortable for you, and work your way up to faster, longer, and then eventually higher, and then down something, and then who knows, in the streets you'll be able to hold your grind. That's pretty much what I have for this one. I hope this one helps. Yeah, there's an interesting comment that I got earlier about how like skating's not supposed to be like a normal sport, and so training like a normal sport, there's no point. And this is the exact point. If you don't put some time into deliberate practice, you're not gonna master things like this. Like, I've had the pleasure of like watching Nigel Houston in person grind backside 5-0 at 33 stair rail, and his approach was so methodical, but he had so much experience with the long rails that he was able to shift his weight when he needed to at some point getting onto the rail. He knew which part of his truck he wanted to catch on the rail, and I hate to break it to someone like you who would make that type of comment, but The only way you get this is by practicing like you would any other sport. Skateboarding is just like any other physical activity. The only thing that makes it different for us is because it is what we consider special, but that doesn't mean anything in the realm of objectivity. It just means that you love skateboarding, which is great for you. But don't conflate the fact that you love something with it being different from everything else. It just means that it resonated with you, and that's fine. It's great that you have something that resonates with you, but you know, to each his own. Thank you for watching. Get out there and grind a long rail. If you have me on social media and this helps you, send me your long grinds and maybe I'll put it on my story or something like that. Really appreciate you guys watching. Consider joining the Patreon group.